Jaja Binks, Jaja Binks. Me say your humble servant, Jaja Binks, Jaja Binks. Oh, muy, I love you, Jaja Binks. Me say go Jaja Binks.
Hello everybody, some would say I'm the reverse, and welcome to the fourth installment in my Flash rewatch / re-ranking of all of the episodes of this series. Today we're going to be doing Season 4, all 23 episodes. Overall, this season is probably my least favorite so far, which I was expecting. I've never liked this season. I didn't know how it would compare to Season 3, but if you've seen my last video, you will remember that I said Season 3 was a lot better than I remembered, whereas this season is about the same as I remembered. So, yeah, overall, weaker than the previous 3 seasons. I think we can all agree, even if you like this season, that it probably has the worst ratio from of good to bad episodes compared to the other seasons, at least up until this point. Later seasons might get worse, but yeah, we'll be seeing a lot of episodes rank down in that D and F range this video. But anyways, let's jump into this with episode 1, which is called The Flash Reborn. This episode is probably my favorite Flash premiere that we've ever gotten. So far, it is my favorite premiere of the ones we've ranked. I love this episode. It starts off, and it's kind of bittersweet because there is still that kind of fun energy that this show is known for, but it is a little bit sad because, of course, Barry isn't there. We have Wally and Cisco are kind of the superheroes of the team, which is great, and the whole dynamic there was kind of refreshing. But then, of course, the whole plan to get Barry out of the Speed Force goes underway, and that was really cool. Barry gets out of the Speed Force, and he's a little crazy. He's writing weird symbols. He's speaking gibberish. This is probably my favorite part of the episode. I just love Team Flash's reaction to all this, and them trying to find a way to fix Barry, and them still trying to fight the Samuroid while trying to fix Barry. And I just loved it. And then the Samuroid takes Iris, and Barry breaks out of the containment in the pipeline, which is one of my favorite scenes of the entire season. I just think it's so badass. And then Flash is back with the new suit, and he fights Samuroid, and it's just so great. The energy in this episode, the tone, it's Season 1 levels of excitement, and it's just such a strong start to this season, and it's one of my favorite episodes in the entire season, and it's my favorite premiere. So I'm going to put it in the A tier, above Into the Speed Force, above The Darkness and the Light. I don't think it's as good as Versus Zoom, though. Even though, if you've seen my Season 2 ranking video, you will know that Versus Zoom does have a major writing flaw near the end of the episode that really drags it down. I still don't think this episode is better than it, so I'm going to put it right there. Anyways, let's move on to Season 4, Episode 2, titled Mixed Signals. This was not a very good episode for multiple reasons. First, the villain of this episode, his name is Kilgore, is not good at all. He is very bad. I don't know if it's the actor or the writing or whatever. He is just a very cringy character. Anytime he's on screen, he's just not a fun character at all, and he's very cringeworthy. We have couples counseling with Barry and Iris going to Dr. Finkel, who's a character that shows up multiple episodes this season to do like therapy sessions with multiple members of Team Flash. It's a really dumb storyline throughout the season, but it starts in this episode and it's not good. I guess the only fun thing about this episode, the only thing worth really talking about in a positive light, is Barry's new suit. There's a lot of spotlight on that in this episode with this kind of HUD and the technology that Cisco's put in it. It's actually quite fun discovering what little weapons and trinkets there are in this suit. the flotation mode and the little HUD display that comes down, the little yellow thing over his eyes. It's really cool. Obviously, Season 4's suit is just beautiful to look at, but it's also really interesting in this episode. But unfortunately, that's really the only positive thing I have to say. That's the only saving grace of this episode. Everything else is just really bad. So I'm going to put it in the F tier. The first F tier episode of this series, and you'll notice that there will probably be a lot of F tier episodes in this season. So let's move on to Season 4, Episode 3, titled Luck Be a Lady. Again, another really bad episode. The villain is, once again, very cringeworthy. It's Becky Sharp this time around, who Cisco coins Hazard, and her power is just ridiculous. She has the power to control luck, which the episode tries to make a science explanation with like quantum particles that she can control, which to the untrained eye looks like luck. As Harry says, it's dumb. Her power's really dumb. Her writing is really dumb. She's just not a good villain, and yeah, that's really the only thing I can think about or think of with this episode. It's fairly forgettable episode. All I remember is just the cringe stuff. So another F tier. I'm gonna put it behind Mixed Signals because again, that episode had that saving grace of the suit, and Kilgore, at least his powers kind of made sense within the context of the show. Hazard's powers, even as ridiculous as this show gets, it's still dumb by this show's standards. So yeah. Next is Season 4, Episode 4, titled Elongated Journey into Night. This is Ralph's introduction episode, and it's actually pretty good. Ralph as a character is very annoying in this season overall, but he's actually decent in this episode. I did like his rapport with Barry, his relationship, his chemistry with Barry was really good, and the whole storyline as a whole was pretty good. We also had the introduction of Breacher in this episode, who isn't a fantastic character by any means, but I mean it's Danny Trejo, and he's hunting Cisco. It's pretty entertaining. So yeah, overall, fairly strong episode, pretty fun. Season 1 energy in terms of the tone, not quite in terms of the writing, unfortunately, but we'll take what we can get. So yeah, Season 4, Episode 4, I didn't think it was nearly as bad as the last two, but it's not as good as the premiere. I'm going to put it in the B tier. Where in the B tier, though? I don't think it's as good as Flashpoint, not as good as Family of Rogues, not as good as Dead or Alive. No, I'm going to put it above Dead or Alive. Dead or Alive is decent. It's our introduction to Gypsy, but it is kind of boring. This episode, it definitely has a little bit more going for it. So yeah, I'm going to put this above Dead or Alive. Next is Season 4, Episode 5, titled Girls' Night Out. Possibly the most infamous, notorious episode of the entire show, and for good reason. This episode sucks in every way. We have two main storylines, one main storyline going on, but it kind of splits into two main storylines. We have Barry and Iris's bachelor and bachelorette parties, which of course split off and both do their own things. We have Barry's bachelor party, which is actually kind of entertaining. It starts there at Barry's house. It's fine and dandy. They're just having a chill night, hanging out, and then Ralph comes along and drags them to the strip club. And there we get drunk Barry, which is definitely the highlight of this episode. Him running around the bar screaming, "I'm the Flash!" It's really good stuff. But other than that, nothing in this episode is good. It is a horrible episode, especially Iris's bachelorette party. We have Iris, Cecile, Frost / Caitlin, and Felicity, and they are going around with boas on and fist bumping, saying #feminism, and this episode is our introduction to Amunet Black, who's a horrible character, and it's our introduction to Norvok, who is no, it's not in our introduction to Norvok, but he plays a crucial role in this, and he is a horrible character. It's so bad. There's nothing I can say about this episode other than Drunk Barry. It's horrible. It's an F tier. It's the worst episode of the season, worst episode of the series, probably. Yeah. Nothing else to talk about. Let's move on to Season 4, Episode 6, titled When Harry Met Harry. This episode, we have two main storylines. We have Barry and Ralph facing, what's-her-face, the Black Bison, Mina Shaitan, who can control effigies, or statues, which, again, kind of like Hazard. Her powers don't make a lot of sense. It just doesn't make sense how a stone statue, which doesn't have any anatomical, properties, it's just shaped like a statue, I guess. That doesn't mean you should be able to take control of it. The logic is just not very well founded. Another instance of this season's ridiculous metahumans. But yeah. Other than that, the storyline's fine, I guess. It's more of Barry teaching Ralph how to be a hero. Yeah. Other storyline going on in this episode, we have Cisco and Wells, Cisco and Harry consulting their new Council of Wells, which is a fun storyline, all these different versions of Wells. We have Wells 2.0, who's a cyborg Wells. We have H. Lothario Wells, who's kind of the Matthew McConaughey Wells. And then we have, what's-his-face, the French Wells. I don't remember what his name is. Is it just H. Wells? I can't really remember. He's fine. He's fun, I guess. But overall, this episode, there's just really not much going on, and it's nothing special. I'm going to put it in the F tier again. It's just not interesting. It's better than the other three in this tier, but yeah, another F tier in this season. We're going to get probably quite a few more, just looking at the lineup that we got going on later on in the season. But yeah, overall, not a very good episode. Let's move on to Season 4, Episode 7, titled Therefore I Am. Now, this is actually a really good episode. This is kind of DeVoe's origin episode. We get flashbacks to his days as a professor and him meeting Marlize. I guess not him meeting Marlize. That comes later on, and I'll talk about that when I get to another episode. But more so him and Marlize kind of, I don't know, their villainous plan coming into fruition, and them creating the thinking cap, and we get flashbacks to the particle accelerator. We meet, or we get more scenes of, Thawne's, Wells. It's really cool. I really enjoyed these flashbacks, and I really enjoyed Barry's investigations of DeVoe, and him kind of knowing that DeVoe is a villain, but Team Flash not trusting him, and him constantly just going after DeVoe, getting a restraining order, breaking into DeVoe's house. It's pretty good stuff. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this episode. I've always liked this episode, but it was better than I remembered, so I'm going to put it in the A tier. Better than most of these episodes, better than Killer Frost, better than, Rogue Air, better than Finish Line, better than Runaway Dinosaur. Is it better than... No, I'm not going to put it above Who is Harrison Wells, because Who is Harrison Wells, excuse me, it just has that Season 1 energy of unveiling the Harrison Wells mystery, which is done so well. This episode's great. It's got some great moments, got some great acting from Neil Sandilands, and what's her name? Marlize DeVoe's actress. I can't remember. It's just got some great acting throughout the board, but I'm going to give it to Who's Harrison Wells just because of the mystery and just the end scene and the everyman. Everything about that episode is really good. So I'm going to give it to that episode. Next, we have Season 4, Episode 8. This is, of course, the crossover episodes. Crisis on Earth X Part 3. Not a huge fan of Crisis on Earth X. Probably one of the weaker crossover episodes overall. Definitely weaker than Invasion. This episode is one of the better parts of the crossover, in my opinion. We, I believe, start with all the heroes in the concentration camp. We get some stuff with like the Ray and Flash versus Red Tornado. We get some cool stuff with Thawne at Star Labs. Overall, there's just some kind of cool stuff in this episode, but again, I just don't really like this crossover. I think the Nazi storyline is kind of just weird and out of place. I don't know too much about DC Comics, but I'm fairly certain that the Nazi storyline isn't from the comics. They just came up with it. Kind of weird crossover storyline, but yeah. I'm going to put this episode in the B tier. It's not great. Not quite Flash versus Arrow Invasion territory, so definitely down here. Worse than Paradox, worse than Flashpoint. Worse than Family of Rogues, but better than Elongated Journey Tonight, I think. It is still cool to see all the heroes, seeing Team Arrow, seeing I believe the Legends are in this one, or at least some of them, and, seeing the Supergirl characters. It's fun, but yeah, definitely the weakest crossover thus far. Then we have Season 4, Episode 9, Don't Run. This is the mid-season finale. This one's pretty good. Not the best mid-season finale of all time. Probably the weakest so far. We do have some good stuff in here with, Barry getting framed for DeVoe's murder. That was pretty good. Him getting, arrested. And then we have the stuff with Dominic Lance was fine, I guess. More Amunet is always a bad sign. Then we kind of have some stuff with Barry and DeVoe fighting, actually. Barry getting taken by DeVoe, and then their fight through Central City. Nothing huge in this episode, just the ending, so I can't really give it more than a B tier. But it is kind of good. I'm probably going to put it in this territory again with Crisis on Earth X. Again, Amunet drags this episode down. And other than that ending, it's not absolutely great. Definitely disappointing for a mid-season finale, though, so I'm going to put it where I did. Anyways, let's move on to Season 4, Episode 10, the mid-season premiere titled The Trial of the Flash. Obviously, this is a courtroom episode. Not huge fan of courtroom episodes. This one isn't anything special. So I'm not going to really talk about it. It's just your average Arrowverse court episode. We've had plenty of them in Arrow and Flash. Really nothing special. So, yeah. The Fallout storyline of this episode, he's the meta of the week. Not quite villain of the week, but he's the meta of the week. He's cool, I guess. Character-wise, he's not great, but I did like the final fight between him and Flash, where Flash creates the vortex to, handle all his nuclear power. And, yeah. The main thing that I really liked about this episode, however, was the kind of joint scene between the judge saying Barry Allen is this heinous criminal and sentencing him to life in prison, and then we also have Captain Singh saying how much of a hero the Flash is after the Flash saved the city from Fallout. I just really loved the parallel with that scene. I thought it was done really well. So, yeah, that's really all I have to say about the episode. Fairly uneventful episode. The trial was fine. Yeah, B tier. Worse than Don't Run. Worse than Crisis on Earth X. Worse than Elongated Journey Tonight. Worse than Dead or Alive. Worse than Attack on Central City. There's no Grodd in this episode, so That definitely gives 314 an edge over this one. I'm going to put it right there, ahead of Potential Energy, but below Attack on Central City. I think that's a good place for it. I think this serves as a very good mid-season premiere, which is why I put it above Potential Energy. I just think it's a better mid-season premiere than that, but overall, it's fine. So yeah. Actually, going back, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move Don't Run down a little more, just because I'm kind of thinking of this episode compared to Trial of the Flash. I prefer Trial of the Flash over this one, so I'm going to move Don't Run down a little more. Just because, I don't know, I feel like this episode is even more uneventful than I remembered. I feel like that final moment with him getting arrested is really distracting me from the rest of the episode being, nothing special. So I'm going to move it down right there, below Potential Energy. So, yeah, I just wanted to make that quick little change because for some reason I started comparing Don't Run and the Trial of the Flash in my head, and Don't Run is definitely the weaker episode. So, quick little tweak that can happen. So, yeah. Next, we have Season 4, Episode 11, The Elongated Night Rises. And this is an episode that I think I dislike a lot more than a lot of other people because I really did not like this episode at all. First off, Barry's in prison, so there is no Flash action, which really, weakens this episode. Secondly, Ralph is a very annoying character. He comes into his own in this episode, becomes his own hero, gets his own suit, gets his own name, but he's still an annoying character. And 3, Trickster and Prank are really silly villains, and I really do not like them. I believe I said it in episode 17 of Season 1. Axel Walker was fine in that episode, but he gets really campy in this episode, and I really don't like it. It's just such a cringeworthy episode. I'm going to put it in the F tier below all these episodes, but above Girls' Night Out. I still think that's the worst episode of the show, but Elongated Night Rises is very bad, and I think people give it too much credit. I like campy, I like lighthearted Flash every once in a while, but this just goes way too far with it. So, yeah. Season 4, Episode 12, Honey, I Shrunk Team Flash. This episode's main storyline deals with Silbert Rundin, who is this meta who can shrink or embiggen things. And, of course, he shrinks Cisco and Ralph, which is kind of entertaining. I don't know, the metas this season are just so uninteresting, and Silbert Rundin, aka Dwarf Star, is among that list of boring metahumans. The acting, the writing, the character, the powers, it's all just boring. The second storyline we have going on is Barry in prison again. He meets a character by the name of Big Sur, who he met last episode, I believe. And in this episode, he basically, Silbert Rundin was the one who really committed the crime. Big Sur was framed for it, 10, 15 years ago, I believe it was. And Barry, in communication with Team Star Labs from the outside, is trying to free Big Sur from prison. Now, Big Sur is a fine character. He's played by Goldberg, which is kind of funny. But other than that, he's a fine character. Nothing special. So this episode, or this storyline, is not too interesting. Overall, this episode is, it's fine. Better than all the F tier ones, because it's not, cringeworthy or anything. So I'm going to put it in the D tier. Probably just very bottom of the D tier for me. It's definitely on the brink. It could be an F tier, but it's just not as cringeworthy as the other, 5 that are in the F tier. So I'm going to give it to it. Just makes it into the D tier. So yeah. Next is Season 4, Episode 13, titled True Colors. This is the episode that Barry is discovered to be a metahuman. He's moved to the metahuman wing at Iron Heights. Well, it happens in the previous episode, but Barry and all the other metahumans from the previous season, we have Becky Sharp, Kilgore, Dwarfstar from the last episode, and Mina Shaitan, the Black Bison. They're all about to be sold to Aminet Black. So they escape, and they basically are trying to get out of Iron Heights. Well, eventually they do, but DeVoe shows up, and he body snatches all of the other metahumans other than Barry, and he kills the warden, and yada yada yada. I don't know. The part where DeVoe shows up at the end is pretty tense and pretty cool. Other than that, it's just Barry, walking around Iron Heights with 4 of the most boring, cringeworthy metas from this show. So, nothing special. Visually, this episode was actually really cool. I haven't really been mentioning it, but throughout this season, the colors of this season are just really... It's a really fun season to look at for some reason, but yeah. Overall, this episode is fine. I mean, this is the episode, I believe... Yeah, this is the episode where Barry gets out of prison at the end, where Ralph, shapeshifts into DeVoe and shows up at the appeal hearing and basically confuses the hell out of everybody. So, yeah, that is kind of a cool scene. So I'm going to give this episode a C tier. High C tier, not as good as Going Rogue or Power Outage, better than Untouchable. So yeah, high C tier is pretty fair to this episode. I mean, the DeVoe stuff, again, pretty cool. In the structure of this season, it does more harm than it does good, I'd say, because the body snatching, the body switching storyline is really bad, and it ruined the Thinker as a villain, in my opinion, and it gets really bad with this episode onward, these next few episodes. But yeah, the episode on itself, by itself, is C tier. Next is Season 4, Episode 14, titled Subject 9. This episode was fine. Izzy Bowen is kind of an annoying character. Her whole, this Thinker can't damage me, I'm just going to go back to making my music and not care about my safety shtick was really dumb, and it got really old really quick. I did like her relationship with Ralph, though. That was actually kind of done well. But other than that, not a very good, memorable, special episode at all. Me yawning while I'm talking about this is a testament to that. I mean, it's better than most of the episodes that we talked about this season, specifically all those F tier ones, but yeah. I'd say it's a C tier. It's fine. Not as good as True Colors, but still a C tier in and of itself. Below Trajectory, simply because, again, like I've said about a lot of episodes in, not this season, but I said this a lot about Season 3 episodes, Trajectory has that J zoom reveal at the end, which salvages it and puts it above Subject 9, so yeah. Next is Season 4, Episode 15, titled Enter Flashtime. Probably the worst episode of this season, if I'm going to be honest. So yeah, I'm just kidding. This is a fantastic episode, easily the best of the season. I don't know if they switched writers or what, but wow, this episode was just so good. The visuals, like I said before, are great, and just probably the best they've been this whole show. If I'm going to be honest, this is such a beautiful looking episode, such a brilliantly acted episode from Grant Gustin specifically. His exhaustion, he's sweating, he's running around at in Flashtime. It's great. It's so great. Him trying to find just all these different ways to stop this nuclear explosion. Him pulling Jesse in, him pulling Jay in, him pulling Cisco and Caitlin and Harry and everybody in. It's just so great. Again, the visuals are great. The Speed Force stuff at the end where he goes into the Speed Force, takes the Quark Sphere, and he throws it. The lightning is chasing him. Looks great, is great. One of the most flashy DC Comics Flash moments of the whole show. It's so fantastic. Within the whole structure of the season, it is kind of weird. This is kind of a standalone, just fun episode, but I mean, separating yourself from the season 4 episodes around it isn't necessarily a bad thing. So yeah. But yeah, really fantastic episode. Something I didn't really talk about yet is the Harry and Jesse scenes were really, really good, with Jesse trying to pressure Harry into talking about her mom, and then him finally using the mental activity dampener to basically let her listen to his thoughts and experience some of his memories with her mom. And just great stuff. Episode is fantastic through and through. I'm going to put it in the S tier. I think it is an S tier episode. We haven't had an S tier episode since season 2. I think this episode is better than Enter Zoom. Is it better than The Trap? No, I'm going to give it to The Trap. I think The Trap is really, really damn good with the story it's telling. Really good scenes in The Trap, but Enter Flashtime is phenomenal. Which, I mean, it made it into the S tier, so it's clearly a phenomenal episode, but yeah. Next we have Run, Iris, Run, 416. This episode is, once again, an F tier. I mean, just giving Iris speed is such a dumb idea. I don't know what else I can say about this episode. I mean, Melting Point, he's not a great character, and the whole, like, mystery of, oh, what happened at the bank with Melting Point taking this fire guy's powers? Where did his powers go? What's happening? I mean, it was obvious. They literally, like, showed us that, Melting Point touched this guy. His hand glowed red. He fell on the ground, touched this other guy. His hand went red. Like, we saw it. I don't know why they were trying to make a mystery out of it. I don't know. That was dumb. Iris getting speed was dumb. Barry trying to coach her and not being a good coach was really dumb and frustrating. Like, I don't know how you can't explain to her, how to phase. I mean, this happened in season 3 with him trying to teach Wally how to phase too, and him just not being able to. I mean, Thawne taught you how to phase. Just teach Wally, teach Iris in this case, how to do it using the words that Thawne used. It's simple. I don't know. It's so dumb. And then, of course, we have the hotness, the meta at the end, that Melting Point gave the fire powers to. Oh my god, the acting, the writing was so bad. He's using his powers, he's threatening the police. He's like, somebody get my money! And he's shooting all this fire everywhere. And oh my god, it is so bad. F tier. It's just an F tier episode. I don't know what else I can say. It's so cringy. It's so bad. I don't know. I don't know what I'd rather do than watch this episode again. I would rather, gag myself than watch this episode again. It's so bad. It's better than Girls' Night Out, and it's better than Elongated Night Rises, which a lot of people would disagree with, but at least this episode had some speedster action. 411 did not, so yeah. Next is Season 4, Episode 17, Null and Annoyed. We have Null as a villain who can make things float, can affect the gravitational, makeup of objects and people and stuff. I don't know. It's a decent power, but not a good character. Acting, writing is really bad. We have more Barry and Ralph things. Like I said, I'm yawning. A boring episode. Barry and Ralph. Ralph is joking around a bunch, and Barry gets annoyed with that. Turns out Ralph jokes because when he was 10 years old, his dad left, and to cheer up his mom, he joked a lot. I guess that's fine. That's a fine explanation. I don't know. Not a great episode. Ralph, again, is kind of just a whiny, immature character. He's always like, at this part of the season, DeVoe's coming after him. He's like super cringy. he's like, oh, DeVoe's coming after me. I'm just going to go hide in my room. And then he walks away longingly, and some member of Team Flash has to go out into the hallway and give him a pep talk. It's so dumb. But yeah. All the stuff with Null and Ralph and Barry, not great. The highlight of this episode is Breacher. He's losing his powers, and Cisco's trying to help him. Turns out Breacher's just getting really old. So at the end of the episode, he retires, and he offers Cisco the position of Breacher, the leader of the collection agency on Earth 19. It's fine, not great. Overall, bad episode. I'm going to give it an F tier. Probably the best F tier episode so far, but that, of course, is not saying much. So, yeah, that's Null and Annoyed. Next, we have Season 4, Episode 18, titled Lose Yourself. This episode was actually really good. We have Team Flash going after the pretty much final bus meta that they haven't failed to save at this point, which is Edwin Gauss, aka the Folded Man, who's actually a really cool character. Probably one of the only bus metas this season that I actually liked. He was this hippie dude. He was actually, his character, his personality was entertaining. So yeah. But anyways, what makes this episode as good as it is, in my opinion, is the end when the Thinker goes after Edwin Gauss at Star Labs, and he goes after all the other bus metas that are at Star Labs, including Ralph, and he ends up getting all their bodies, including Ralph, and yeah, he quote unquote kills Ralph, which I thought was a really good scene, and I thought it was actually a really sad scene with Barry kind of trying to save Ralph, but he can't, and yeah, it was an effective scene, even though Ralph does get revived later on, which we'll get to, but yeah, it's not the best episode of the season, it's not a masterpiece or anything, but it was a really tense episode, and it had some good DeVoe moments, and it also marked the first episode where we actually got Neil Sandilands back in the role of the Thinker, so no more body swapping after this, which is a very, very good thing, because that ruined his villain arc. So getting the original Clifford DeVoe actor back was a really good thing about this episode. So I'm gonna put this episode in the B tier, really high B tier though, because I really loved this episode. I'm going to put it above Shade, below the pilot. I don't know. I really enjoyed this episode. I remember really enjoying it at the time it came out. It did get dragged down a little bit by the fact that Ralph's death didn't stick. But it's still impactful, and it was still a really good episode. Season 4, Episode 19 is called Fury Rogue, and this episode was another pretty good episode. We have the Thinker going after Fallout, and to help Team Flash protect Fallout from the Thinker, they recruit Leo Snart from Earth X, who's of course, alternate version of Leonard Snart. He's less interesting than the original Leonard Snart, but he's still a fun character. Wentworth Miller is still great in the role. The main thing that I really like about his character is the way that he helps Barry through the grieving process for Ralph, because Barry is basically refusing to confront his emotions about Ralph, and Leo pushes him to do that, and I thought that storyline was pretty good. Other interesting things going on in this episode, I guess, we have Siren X, the Earth X version of Laurel, aka Black Canary, aka Earth 2 Black Siren. You know what I'm talking about. She comes into this episode. She's fine. She's just a less interesting version of Black Siren, I guess. Black Siren without any of the emotional stuff that she gets in Arrow. So nothing special. But this episode had some decent DeVoe stuff. But yeah, other than that, I think the Leo Snart stuff was just pretty good. Him talking through, Barry's emotions about Ralph. So, yeah, I'm going to give this episode a B tier. One of the better episodes of the season, I think. probably like the low. Actually, I'm gonna give it the lowest B tier ranking so far. I don't think it's as good as Guerrilla Warfare because, I mean, that's a Grodd episode. Even though I do think it is the weakest Grodd episode so far, it's still a Grodd episode. This one isn't. But yeah, it's a B tier. It's pretty good episode. Fairly forgettable, if I'm gonna be honest. I literally watched this episode today, and there's not much that I remember other than the Leo Snart stuff and Siren X, I guess. But yeah, it's B tier. I liked it. For season 4, episode 20 is Therefore She Is. This is just a worse version of Therefore I Am. Instead of focusing on Clifford DeVoe, it focuses more on Marlize, which is fine. Marlize is a decent character. It's just that there wasn't much going on in the present-day storyline in this episode. I guess we just had Cisco and Gypsy, their relationship drama, and they break up at the end of this episode, which sucks because, I don't know, she should have been Cisco's end goal, not Camilla, who we get next season. I don't know why they chose Camilla over Gypsy. I mean, Gypsy's actress needed to leave the show, but I feel like the Breacher job would have been Cisco's perfect window out of the show, but I don't know. I'm rambling. Anyways, this episode, not much is going on. This is just DeVoe doing more Enlightenment preparation stuff. And then we get flashbacks of Marlize, how she got on board with his plans, and it's fine. Decent episode. It's just, yeah, it's fine. I think it's better than Fury Rogue, even though I do think it is just as forgettable. I am going to put it in the B tier with Fury Rogue, probably just right ahead of it. The end, where Marlize actually leaves Clifford, now that was a good scene. I liked where that went. But other than that, it's pretty forgettable episode. Again, like Fury Rogue, I just watched this today, and I already don't really remember much, so yeah. Next is Season 4, Episode 21, Harry and the Harrisons. Congrats, another F tier episode. I don't know, this episode is another Amunet focused episode, so of course it's going to be really bad. They're working with Amunet because I guess she's just a good option to use against the DeVoe satellites. So, yeah. And we get more Norvok, who is kind of the central villain of this episode. He's, of course, not a good character at all. What else do we get? We get a new Council of Wells. We have H. Lothario Wells, the Matthew McConaughey Wells returning. We also get Sonny Wells and what's his? Is it H.P. Wells? I think maybe. I might be thinking of the wrong one, but he is the actual French Wells, the very, very French Wells. Bonjour, that one, and they're fine. They're probably I like them better than the original Council of Wells, but yeah, they're funny. But other than that, this episode just sucks. It's an Aminet episode, so F tier for sure. Yeah. I think there's a clear distinction between Luck Be a Lady and the ones above it, and Harry and the Harrisons and the ones below it. Clear distinction between those two groups of F tier episodes. So, yeah, this one and the ones below it are just the worst of the worst, whereas Luck Be a Lady and the ones above it are horrible, but at least there's a little bit of salvageable things here. But yeah, 421, horrible. 422 is called Think Fast. This is a really good episode, actually. Really, really good. Of course, it's the penultimate episode. Basically, Team Flash, they are looking for a way to break into Argus after it's been controlled by DeVoe, who's basically using Fallout to power the Enlightenment. So Barry, Cisco, and Caitlin are practicing Flashtime, and they are trying to use it to free the hostages in Argus and then stop the Enlightenment. And overall, it's really fun, him training them with Flashtime. It's cool seeing him bring them into Flashtime and try. It's just entertaining stuff. And the start of this episode, I forgot to mention, of DeVoe taking over Argus, using all of his powers, and just an incredible fight scene, a one-shot fight scene of him just, using every single bus meta power. It's great, great scene. And then the Enlightenment at the end of the episode. It's just a really good penultimate episode, I think. So yeah, I'm going to give this a high B tier. Where though? I don't know. Probably, I mean, it's better than Flashpoint, better than Paradox, better than this, better than this. Is it? Yeah, I'm gonna put it above Invasion, but below Flash versus Arrow. That's a pretty good spot for it, I think. So yeah. Overall, just a really entertaining penultimate episode. Next, we have, of course, the mid-season finale. We have, or not the mid-season finale, excuse me. We have the season finale, season 4, episode 23. This is We Are the Flash. Horrible title, but a decent episode, to be honest. Much better than I remembered. Similar to the season 3 finale. Now that we are multiple years past the airing of this episode. At the time, I didn't like this episode because I didn't think it was a great finale, but now I can just judge it based on how good of an episode it is. I don't really care how good of a finale it is because I'm watching these back to back. I don't have to wait 4 or 5 months to see what happens. So this episode is better than I remembered. Got a lot of good stuff in here. We have the return of Ralph. We have the whole Harry intelligence storyline is great in this episode. It's really sad seeing Harry not even being able to form words almost. By the end, he's fixed, but he's not uber smart like he used to be, so I liked the end of that storyline, but yeah. The only complaint I have with this is that it just missed potential. I mean, DeVoe has all of these powers. We could have had an epic fight between him and all of Team Flash, and we don't really get that. We get Barry going back into DeVoe's mind, or not back into, just going into DeVoe's mind for the first time, and trying to, I don't know, bring the good DeVoe and let him take over the bad DeVoe. It doesn't make much sense, and it was a lame way to finish off their villain hero rivalry fight thing. It was dumb. So other than that, though, the satellite scene was great. The end scene, the Nora reveal, was pretty great. So I'm going to give this episode a B tier. Where? I think it's fairly equal with Think Fast. I think Think Fast is better. Actually, is it better than Think Fast? Yeah, I think it's better than Think Fast. I think Invasion... No. Yeah, I think Invasion's... No, I'm going to give it to... put it over Invasion. Again, I like this episode a lot more than I used to, so yeah. I do think, though, of course, it is the weakest finale that we've gotten so far. Finish line being right here, and then Race of His Life being here, and Fast Enough being here. So We Are the Flash is the weakest finale so far, but I did really like it compared to how I used to think. So yeah, that is my thoughts on the entire Flash Season 4 episodes. So just to recap, F tier, very filled up quite a lot. We have 8 episodes in here. We have Girls' Night Out, Elongated Night Rises, Run Iris Run, Harry and the Harrisons, Luck Be a Lady, Mixed Signals, When Harry Met Harry, Null and Annoyed. In the D tier, we have quite a few more. Actually, no, we have only one more, interestingly enough. We have Honey, I Shrunk Team Flash. In the C tier, we have the addition of Subject 9 and True Colors. In the B tier, we have quite a few more. We have Fury Rogue, Therefore She Is, Don't Run, The Trial of the Flash, Elongated Journey into Night, Crisis on Earth X Part 3. What's next? We Are the Flash, Think Fast, and Lose Yourself, And then in the A tier, we have the Flash Reborn. Anything else? Therefore, I Am. And that's it. And then in the S tier, we have Enter Flashtime. So, yeah, overall, we got some really good episodes in the S, A, and B tier, and not too many in the C and D, but look at all those F tier episodes. Overall, not a great season. Weakest so far. Yeah. Am I excited to move on to Season 5? Not really. Season 5 is, if I remember correctly, pretty much equal to Season 4 in terms of quality, so yeah. Not looking forward to it, but I am looking forward to getting to Season 6 because if I remember correctly, I did really like Season 6 when it came out. And then, of course, Season 7 and 8 I haven't seen fully, so we'll just have to wait and see. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned, of course, for my future installments of this series. See ya.